Welcome to another episode of Into Final Thoughts. Before we jump into it, I want to tell you to check out our official partner of this season of Into Final Space, Cartoon Crave. Cartoon Crave is an incredible network and news source for all things animation, including Final Space. To learn more, check them out on Instagram at cartooncrave_ and at the Cartoon Crave on Twitter. Now, let's get into the episode. And we are back live and in action. It's your friendly neighborhood Final Space crew. I'm Gabe Jones, host of Into Final Space. Joining me as always is...
That's
Olan Rogers and Coty Galloway. Sorry, I just turned off my air purifier.
I just straight jumped you, buddy.
There we go.
It's all good. Yeah, no.
Sorry, Olan, I didn't tell you. Coty's replacing you as my co-host on this one, so you know.
you know. Introduce yourself, Coty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Hey, it's Coty Galloway, baby. What's going on? We talking season 3 today? I mean, episode
Season 3 as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we are talking season 3, episode 3. 3-3.
Lots of threes.
A lot
the
of threes
Ventrexian.
today. Yes.
Pumped to get this one done. Of course, we have Coty Galloway, voice of Avocato, with us today. And Olan Rogers, as always, creator of Final Space.
Hello. Olan here, executive producer, writer, creator, actor, does social media wizard, edits all the trailers. That guy, okay?
Jack
The mastermind with laser vision. Let me add that, baby. Let me add that. And this is Coty Galloway, the voice of Avocato.
There we go. Hell yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody. There's a lot to dive into for this one. Once again, we're talking about Final Space Season 3, Episode 3, The Ventrexian. As always, tread lightly. You're entering the swamps of spoiler land, so make sure you've actually watched Episode 3 and then come back and join us. But yeah.
Spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Spoiler alert.
Big old spoilers. So watch the episode. Join us. If you haven't listened
to this, do not listen to this unless you're ready.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes of the podcast this season, definitely check those out as well. But for now, let's get into Final Space, boys.
Do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'll come back, of course, to the very, very obvious of this episode. And I know people are going to be dying to hear about it.
Let's just get into it, Gabe.
Yeah.
Because everybody is going to want that. They're going to skip right to that. Let's just give them what they want right from the get-go.
All right. We'll come back. Okay. Let's get right into it then. Avocato, obviously. And there's a few things that we'll talk about here, and I've got the 2 foremost experts on the matter with me. So let's start. Let's just start with the Lord Commanders and Avocato's backstory, and getting some solid dialogue between these two. You guys want to hit it up? Olan, give us the backstory on this.
Yeah. You know, it's like we kind of touched a little bit on this on season 1, you know, and we saw a little bit of that flashback, and you got a sense that this was a guy that basically did a lot of bad stuff. Okay. Yep. And, you know, in the sense of that, and you got a little bit of taste of it even in, you know, season 2 when he came back in the Remember It, I think. No, it was actually the Closer You Get. It was at the very top of The Closer You Get. Avocato says, hopefully he didn't destroy, billions of people, and you get a little sense of it. But there was something that, when we dived into the writer's room, and it was like season 2, season 3, it was kind of like, there's a lot of ideas that kind of transfer between seasons. And, I remember season 1, there's a big season 1 idea that we had actually planned forever ago that didn't make it into season 2 that is now in season 3. And it's a huge part of season 3. And in the spans of season 2 and season 3, we were discussing Avocato and his arc and where to take this character, because he's such a great character and he's such a big character to the show. He's part of that holy trinity, Quinn, Gary, Avocato, and it was one of those things that you see a lot of those backstories, those elements of his past, and there is no personal connection to what he's doing. There is nothing like you see him destroy ships, but you don't see the people on it. You don't see what he actually did. You don't feel it, And to really understand the gravity of this situation, we had to dive in to when he first met the Lord Commander and how he became his number two and why this whole thing started. Is there a way to kind of tell that story in a really awesome way? And so what we did is we kind of really deconstructed Avocato as a character and kind of put him back together a little, because at face value in season 1, season 2, who is Avocato?
Right.
Let's twist him a little bit more, okay?
Yeah,
and let's make this character really, you can go.
Literally blow him up.
And put him back together. But when he came back, we had a really awesome opportunity to dive deeper into this character, to really go to places that we were like, okay, because originally in season 1, this character died, right?
Yep.
That was it. That was the story. In season 2, we brought him back, for various reasons. Okay, we brought him back. And it was part of the plan. We always kind of, it's like there's a way to bring him back, and we thought about it. And, I think the network really wanted him back too. And I think it was one of those things that we brought him back. Okay, he's back.
Thank you, network. Thank you, network. Let me add that.
Okay, so it's like he's back now. How do we tell a really rich story, and how do we really kind of add a story that we can tell over multiple seasons?
Yeah.
And this was like a great starting point, was figuring out the first time he met the Lord Commander, figuring out what was the thing that he said to get Avocato on his side. And we really like this idea, just kind of in soldiers and war and stuff like that in general, basically they follow these orders, and they kind of, there's so many wars throughout the history of time. People follow orders, they die, they live, death, repeat, live, die, repeat, or whatever, essentially. It's like, it's just this endless cycle. And you start wondering, why the heck are they even fighting? Like, what you start losing, because once you're in a 1,000-year war, why are you fighting? Like, you kind of lose the goal. Like and I think that was the Lord Commander found Avocato at a point where he's just been killing, and he's kind of an empty person. Like, there's no purpose to him. And so the Lord Commander actually gives him a purpose for the first time ever that he's ever had. Because this man, all he's known is war. All he's known is killing people. And he doesn't know why anymore. It's just because he's good at it, and a lot of people do things that they're good at, and they don't really ask, why am I doing this?
Right.
But for Avocato, he never questioned it. And now when somebody actually begs the question, hey, why are you this killer? And finds out he doesn't even know why he's killing people, why this war exists, why he's been fighting all this time. And then the Lord Commander is like, well, let me give you a cause. Okay. And kind of for the first time, even though it's like kind of like this kind of insane cause, it's a cause,
right?
It's something that he's never had, so it's like, it's just enough for Avocato to be like, this works, this works for me.
Right. And to come in with that, he falls into the belief, right, that he can help end death in the galaxy. Is that right? And so,
yeah. I mean,
and that's something. Look, a warrior after so long has seen his comrades perish and die, and he's suffered injuries and all that. Ultimately, you don't want that. Nobody wants that in life. And so he ultimately maybe believes this guy. Like, okay, wait a second, let me think about this. You're saying that there's a way to end all of it. And I think he falls for that, and he falls for all the lies of the Lord Commander. And let's still know that the Lord Commander can still mind control. So I believe that there's a little bit of that going on. And of course, Avocato doesn't want people dying. So why not go after whatever it takes to make that possible?
Sure.
And just because he's a he's good at being a soldier doesn't mean, that he wants other people dying. So
yeah. There's this kind of air of, you go on so long, it breaks you,
Yeah.
You said you see so many of your comrades fall, and going with the whole war thing that we're talking about. I'm currently in the midst of Star Wars Clone Wars, and I know Olan, you draw a lot of inspiration from Star Wars when it comes to Final Space. The whole idea of the clones was that they weren't droids; they weren't just programmed to fight continually with no thought for themselves, but they're people. They have lives. They see their brothers fall. Right. I think a lot of that kind of idea applies to Avocato. He's good at what he does. He's an excellent fighter, but he doesn't want to just fight forever.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so when we're going into it, and Gabe, and all you listeners out there, there's this interesting character-defining moment, I believe, for Avocato that happens. Having to bow, right?
Yeah.
But he's not. He's not one that's going to bow, right? But he knows. He looks up. His surroundings. He knows he's defeated.
He's exactly.
In this being, there's this being, okay, that's floating in the air, right?
Yeah,
and has all these things around him. It has power, more power than Avocato has in that moment.
Yeah,
and so he has to make this choice: life or death, right? And he chooses life, and not only for himself, but the soldiers, the men and women that he's been fighting on that battle with. And so in that defining moment, I think he decides, okay, I'm going to take this. I want to bow. And I think that's the first, not the first, but in that moment when we see that's that character defining moment in that episode.
Yeah. And I think, what the bow, it's something that he processes, he's contemplating it. It's not an immediate bow. He's looking up, he's calculating, the odds almost. And I think when he does do it, he knows, I just saw this guy vaporize an entire army.
Yeah.
The only way I'm surviving this is by bowing, Yeah. And I don't think he's on board with the Lord Commander yet,
Yeah.
Not until he gets summoned. And then he gets kind of persuaded into his cause a little bit, And there's a little bit deeper.
There's another part of this story that is not told yet. Okay. And we can get into it a little bit deeper as we kind of discuss, but he says something that's a really important story point, and it kind of tricks people, as they've watched it, is when he says, the Lord Commander is like, do you have a family? And he says, yes, I had a boy, or I have a boy. And it's one of those moments where you think it's little Cato, you think that he's talking about little Cato, but it's not, And it was one of those moments that we wanted to kind of keep the audience, kind of believe. And once we committed to this thing, it's like you had to kind of, make them believe that this thing is still real. But then that begs the question, what happened to his son? And that's going to be an awesome story. Okay. And it leads to a lot of what happens at the end of this episode. And so there's so much about life, death that the Lord Commander's talking about. Talks about a son. You don't know what happens to his son. It's just, it's kind of a big question mark. And then at the very end, when we kind of dive into that, great, I think, ending, and it really kind of drops and you feel the moment right there, you're getting to feel not only kind of like the sadness of little Cato's situation. Okay. Because it is now something that you feel. You're going to feel this, and you're going to feel it so much. And it's so powerful. When it, not only in this episode, but down the season, it's this, we're starting to see the beginning of it. This is the beginning of a multi-season arc right here. Okay. Not only for Avocato, but little Cato. And you're getting to feel a couple different things. One, the sadness of what happened to little Cato. Okay. And two, you feel angry at Avocato.
Yeah.
And it, the thing is, Avocato, he's a changed person. He is.
Yeah.
He's not the same person that he was. And he did something awful.
Mhm.
And that is kind of something that he has to live with. And he's kept a secret. And he hasn't told anybody. He has not told anybody this.
Right. And yeah, because I feel that Avocato definitely blames himself for all of it, right? Yes, yes, Lord Commander was controlling him, manipulating him and everything, but his finger was on that trigger. Could he have fought harder? I mean, we know Avocato's heart is Ventrexia. He's the Ventrexian fighter, but he was also a dad at one point. And as we heard him say, he had a son. But when he completes this task of killing the king and the queen, he knows he's just betrayed everything that he believes in.
Yeah.
And it was really out of his control. But at the same time, did he really truly resist it to his death? You know what I mean? Thinking he was doing the best thing for everybody, but he just betrayed everything that he believed in.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, he's a warrior for the throne, right? He's Ventrexian. He's fighting to protect these people.
Right.
They believed in him when they saw him. They're like, Avocado's come to protect us.
Yeah. And so when he finds their son, he knows what he has to do.
Right.
He knows what he has to do. Because after everything he just did, and that's protect the son of the king and queen, he's broken. Like Olan was saying, he's broken. And he's just broken. And I feel in that moment, after he's had all these realizations, that he's also broken that spell in that moment of the Lord Commander. And he's able to say, hey, look, this is my son. And he's mine. Okay.
Yeah.
Now he's not saying I got to protect him, but for the Lord, for the king and the queen of Ventrexia, I don't think. But he's just saying, look, I gave you everything, everything that I believed in, my heart, my soul, everything. This is my one thing to protect.
Yeah.
This is all I have left of Ventrexia.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like, the Lord Commander is, not only a powerful person, but he has that power of manipulation, the power of persuasion, And if you think back in all the times you've seen the Lord Commander and Avocato together, and you start piecing together, and even just Avocato by himself, but you start piecing together the story. It's like, it would be cool for people to watch this episode and go back and pick up on things and kind of watch the season, and kind of like when they first, when Avocato first says, I need to save my son, it's now this kind of thing where it has a different twist to it. And it's still his son, but it's in his eyes, and into a lot of people's eyes, here's the thing that you have two dads. Okay. One was chosen, the other one was stolen. Okay. Avocato stole his fathership of little Cato. Gary earned it.
Yeah.
And that's where you have this kind of cool dynamic now now you're kind of seeing, where fists are going to fly, and you're going to kind of really feel that. And you're also going to kind of look back on previous seasons, and you're going to see that we kind of already kind of told you this was coming. If you think of the closer you get, when he was possessed by Invictus, and he literally said, you are not my son. I would never father something so weak. And people thought it was like, oh, that's just Invictus talking. But it's like, but Invictus inhabits people and uses them, uses their truth against them.
Yeah. So like cold-blooded.
So you're seeing a lot of this, a lot of hints down the line. And even, one of the scenes to really look back at is when he asks, all of his generals to kill the firstborns to kill their firstborn for loyalty. And so you have Avocato there, and he has to kind of basically, potentially kill little Cato. And it's one of those moments that he decides not to. It's like he promised to protect this kid, even though, because it's guilt, his guilt is manifested in little Cato.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I think he sees it's not just his son. He's become that what's left of what he held on to the most of Ventrexia as well. And let me ask you this. Olan. So I feel like now, just as the viewer's point, main also with the story, the Lord Commander could have taken little Cato at any moment, or forced Avocato to kill little Cato.
Yeah,
I feel like the Lord Commander uses little Cato
yes
as the tool. He knows he can do it. So I know how to control this ultimate warrior.
Yes, he used little Cato to control Avocato. He's always done that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he kept him prisoner. That's why he's a person of manipulation. He can persuade somebody to do something, and Avocato will do whatever it takes to protect little Cato.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he kills the king and queen, you know, like we said, he broke that spell that the Lord Commander had on him. So at that point, you know, you have to have a new bargaining piece on the table, and little Cato becomes that for the Lord Commander.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, in that moment, I think it's leading towards a really powerful kind of arc, and something that, you know, you start thinking about little Cato being a prince, you know, of Vintrexia.
Yeah,
and you see the relationship that he built with Fox, and they've started to develop a friendship, you know, and that means something. That's not nothing. That actually means something. These people should hate each other,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this prince that now basically is like, you know, what's the big deal? You know, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and it kind of is setting up something really cool, and we just kind of saw a pathway that not only led to something, you know, and it's always darkest before the dawn, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And in this moment, it was like, we're going to have to go a little bit darker in order to get to the light on the other end.
There's light on the other end?
Yes. And the thing is,
there's always light, baby.
The thing is, I've always kind of, you know, I know this is like, you know, one of those episodes that is sad and you know, it triggers a lot of emotions, and it'll probably have some people angry, probably have some people sad, probably have some people just like, what the freak? What am I watching? You know? but at the same time, you're feeling that way because you care about these characters.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things is anytime that you can feel anything, anger, sadness, happiness, anything like that, it's one of those things that you've reached a connection with these characters in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And that is only going to make you fall in love with this journey even more, because it gets, you're going to see some really emotional scenes, and you're going to see Avocato has now more than ever has a personal, we put a face on Avocato's crimes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's little Cato.
Yeah.
That's the face. That's the personal connection. That's the end to all of his crimes right there. And the thing is, like, what I get really excited about is when, you know, looking down the line, you think about a season 4, if that ever does happen. Hopefully it does. You know, hopefully it does. But you think about them going back to Vintrexia and him having to face those kind of crimes. Not only that, but what if Avocato's grandparents are alive? You know, there's a lot of like questions like that where you're like, oh man, there's so many different places to go. What happens when little Cato becomes potentially king? Does he end that war? Does he finally end the 1,000-year war? I mean, there's so many cool avenues that it's going. And it's like, it just kind of was like, we have to take this road. And I remember like back in like season 1, I think it might have been Candy. I think Candy asked me, like, is Avocato little Cato's biological father? And I was like, yes. And at the time, I wanted that to be the case. 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, and it wasn't until I heard this idea that I was like, okay, I'm open to it, but where does it go?
Yeah.
It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just do it if it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And so we mapped it out, just season 4 even and beyond. And I was like, okay, that's actually really cool. And I think that actually leads to something pretty powerful.
And even with Avocato, I was like, oh, wow, that leads to something really cool too. And it was like, and it just kind of spider webbed everywhere. And I was like, okay, well then let's do it, and me and David ended up doing it. And I think it's going to be one of those things that it kind of, really shapes the show in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And people could be on the fence about it. Just, I know people always get irritated when I say, just gotta wait. You got to wait and see.
Wait and see. Wait and see.
Yeah. Gotta wait and see.
One thing I want to say is you were saying that by the end of this episode, you're feeling all kinds of emotions and you're feeling this certain way. Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of just something I was thinking of that father, son, or that parental, child thing is that Avocato will do whatever it takes to protect his son, right? Even if that's not being truthful with him, right? Because he doesn't want him to feel those emotions of the full truth of the whole situation. And does he want little Cato to know? Because if little Cato starts chasing after that throne or whatever that is, it's going to put him in more danger. And so can Avocato let that go to what's supposed to happen? He's still trying to somewhat control this situation.
I think that,
where does that take us?
I think that Avocato has a lot of guilt. I think that he is a broken individual.
Yeah.
And I think that when he took that bomb off of little Cato and ran with it and tried to save him, it was all out of, guilt. It was out of kind of essentially, he says, look after my boy. He doesn't say, look after my son. He says, look after my boy. And he runs and he explodes and he passes that off to Gary, know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what you get is Gary kind of in season 2 kind of earned being little Cato's dad,
Yeah.
Now here's the thing that we're gonna get to see, and it's not this season, okay? Because this season it's dealing with another thing, but eventually Avocato is going to have to earn that,
right?
And right now he hasn't earned that, and the thing
he's not wanting that truth to come out,
he doesn't want it to come out because, and the thing is, it's eating him up. Anybody that's ever kept a secret like this. It eats him up. It destroys him from the inside out.
Well, he knows where this dark road will lead to. Not just ultimately for little Cato, but also for him, which you kind of tapped in a few things of where this could possibly go. So it's like, do you want to avoid that truth as well? All the things that's happened up until that point. So hey, you know what? If I gotta bow one more time to this guy, I'm going to bow. You know what I mean? That's what he says. Like, I'm trying to avoid this whole situation. Okay, screw it.
Yeah.
I'll bow, and then you get that nice little look to the side of this is going somewhere else. You know what I mean? You get that let's say this is going to end eventually, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is going to end. I'm not going to bow too many more dang times. And,
so what Gabe, on just what other questions you got on this one? We've discussed that in intricate detail, and we could probably devote a whole
forever. Yeah, just go for
the full Rexian.
Let's switch it up to another part real quick.
Yeah. Although, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll do a conclusion. Because I just want to relate this back to kind of what we've been talking about the past 2 episodes of. Consequences. That's one of the big things you talked about when we were talking episode 1 and episode 2. A lot of the season is facing consequences. So I guess just going forward, is there anything you could tell us for this story? I mean, we know there's a lot going for next season and et cetera.
Yeah.
But is there anything you tell us going forward for season 3, how these consequences are going to play out?
Yeah. And that was kind of something that, I pitched the show on, was consequences, and the consequences were real. And all we're seeing is that kind of, that when I got a little bit more control over the season, it's like, yeah, let's put those consequences back in. So it's like, you're going to see those consequences come to a head, and you're going to see you know, and again, I don't want to give anything away because it's such it's always so hard to talk about, you know, the future and discuss things in a meaningful way without giving anything away. So, but I'll say this: Avocato's got to face these consequences, and he will face these consequences, and he's gonna. The first consequence he's gonna have to face is potentially Avocato and little Cato, you know, basically, or little Cato potentially finding out about this secret. You know, that's going to be a consequence that's looming over his head. And then you also have, you know, the consequence of what he did on Ventrexia that's looming on Ventrexia. It's everywhere he goes there, he's going to be met with some consequences. And that's the thing is like, we're finally getting to kind of dig into that past, but also that arc of following his guilt, but also following his crimes. And is that the only crimes he's done? Who knows, man? He was the second in command for the Lord Commander, you know? Right. He's done some awful things. And
also some of the good things he's done. You know, we don't know that. No. There's
not redeemable at all.
There's definitely been some good things that he hid. Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, look, Avocato is a redeemable character. And he can still be redeemed even with this. So it's like, I think it's one of those things that we're just going to have to follow this character and think about it like, you know, samurais, you know, like when a samurai gets disgraced, he becomes a Ronin, you know, and it's kind of, we're following that kind of mentality where you have this kind of Ronin-esque warrior who's been disgraced and it's not really, it's something that he hasn't been back to Ventrexia. He doesn't know what it's been like, what it turned into, what happened to it. And once he faces that, I don't think anyone is going to be happy to see Avocato, you know, he's kind of a traitor on that planet. So, and the thing is, you know, with where everything's headed and all the consequences of, you know, this season and where it's going, you know, they're going to need Ventrexia and it's not going to be good. But it's always darkest before the dawn, you know?
Yeah.
I'm saying, don't listen to anything this guy says. You never know what's going to happen with this show. Okay.
I know, but but in all honesty, that's the writing process.
Yeah, that
is kind of like you start out with one thing and it evolves, and you start out with another thing and it evolves. There's so many iterations and variations of rewrites and notes and ideas being passed around that you're like, okay, if this is a good enough idea, you eventually just have to make a choice. Okay. And you have to know that the choice that you've made, if there's story material, if there's actually an arc, if there's something meaningful on the other end of it, is it worth taking that journey? And when we looked on the other end of this thing, it was worth taking the journey. And so I know people are going to be sad. I know people are going to be upset. I will probably get.
He loves that.
People will probably be done with the show. Honestly, no.
No. I don't think anyone will be done with the show. You know, you are super talented, and I say that just because I don't want any spoilers. I'm one of those that I do not like hearing anything.
I know.
I don't even like watching trailers. Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, but you're a genius, and even with the storyline of Avocato, you knew what you wanted from the beginning with that guy from the beginning, and just how it's all played out. You and David, the whole team, y'all created something so amazing.
Yeah, man.
And we're talking about the consequence. I almost am. Well, I'm not almost. I mean, I'm excited about what's going to happen with Quinn, right? With what she's not being truthful about, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of secrets going around, you know.
Yeah.
And you know,
where's that going to lead?
It's,
you know what I mean?
Definitely going to lead to a really cool thing as well. And I think that's what you're starting to see is a lot of kind of secrets come to the surface, and a lot of these kind of things that kind of have, you know, and it goes back to that thing I was saying. It's like, it's just talking. And a lot of people have problems communicating.
Yeah.
And how do you communicate that? How do you ask for forgiveness? How do you kind of even broach that conversation? And eventually, once you kind of hold something so deep and so close, you kind of forget that it's there, and then you get reminded of it. Yeah. And that's what happens in this episode. It kind of, the scab gets picked off, and it's like the wound is still there. And, you know, he knows on the other end of this that, you know, little Cato is somebody that he cares about. Avocato believes in his heart that little Cato is his son, and he wants him to be his son. And the only issue is on the other end of that, little Cato has no idea what's coming.
Right.
And little Cato is one of the strongest, absolute strongest characters in this show that can take this emotional beating and is always kind of standing still, you know, like you never see this character.
Hence, did y'all kind of taking him back where he aged for how long was it? 60 years. However long. Yeah. That was that part of the whole strengthen him to get ready for this future process.
I think that it's like, you know, you look into a lot of different aspects of that character and what he's been through. He's been in prison. He's been on the run. There's so much stuff that he's been through. And I love the fact that you get to see him vulnerable. I love the fact that you get to see him cry. I love the fact that you get to see bad things happen to him, but there's also good things that happen to him. And he does have that support system. And the thing is, you're going to see some amazing performances, I think, in honestly, you know, obviously Coty with you. I mean, it's probably one of my most favorite performances you've ever done in this episode 8. Man. And I still remember after that record, you needed a moment to kind of collect yourself, you know, because you were kind of, you know, feeling the emotion of it. And then you walked out and he was like, dude, I'm glad we're friends. And we just like hugged it out. It was like, it was such a strange like moment, but it was also kind of beautiful. And it was like, because I knew that you were kind of going through stuff. I was going through stuff. And then you didn't get to see the other end of me sweating my butt off in the booth. Kind of like, and I was like, kind of like crying my eyes out, recording this thing. And I remember I had to do it twice. There's one time I was getting to a place where I was just like, I don't know where I went. And you hear the emotion in these records and with you and me. And I think we've probably our best performance out of the show. It's like, is those scenes in that episode. I love it so much, but yeah,
get ready for that, baby. Yes.
Heck yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's our big old breakdown on all that and all that entails, because there's a lot of it. But I want to talk about a few other things. So yeah, let's chat a little bit about Gary and Quinn, because we did get some nice moments in this episode. We've been seeing them trying to connect over and over again, but we finally got a little moment in this episode. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that their, you know, relationship is, you're starting to see that, you know, Quinn is kind of almost like putting up a little bit of a front almost, you know, like she's trying to keep that, you know, smiling face on, but behind it is a looming, you know, dread of what is going on with her. Yeah. And so in episode 2, you saw them kind of being really sweet with each other. And it's nice, you know, it's, you know, one of those moments that you're kind of like, whoa, wait, when did this happen? And you kind of see that Quinn is the one that kind of, you know, kind of instigates some of that. And it feels like she's going a little bit too fast. You're like, why is she going? Like, she wants to make out. What are you talking about? And it's one of those moments that you kind of start to feel like it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of time, you know? And I think with this episode, you know, you get another sense, the next check of this sickness, you know, and it's spreading. And this is kind of one of those things that, you know,
now it's fully on Quinn's mind. And I don't know if you've ever had a sickness or ever went to the doctor and you can't stop thinking about this thing, and almost the stress ends up making it worse.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what's happening in this moment, where you just kind of keep thinking about it, and it's just kind of getting worse, and you can't get your head off of it. And, she's trying to, with all of her might, to kind of like not let Gary know, because he went so far to kind of come rescue her, and to find out that it wasn't enough, that potentially that she could be dying, is one of those moments that you're just kind of like, oh no, that's why she doesn't want to break his heart, and not again. And I think it's kind of heartbreaking, and it's sweet at the same time. And so you're getting to kind of see them work through this part of their relationship in a meaningful way. And I really like the ending beat, where it's just kind of like, it's probably, I think, the sweetest moment between the two, because you kind of get why they kind of, are, just them two together, which is essentially like, hey, just know that, I'm here, and that, we can, if you ever got anything going on, let's talk about it. Just tell me, and basically, you just got to give me a signal, because I'm terrible at signals. And it's true. He is. And I think it's a nice, sweet moment. And, it kind of alleviates a little bit of the stress, but it's not gone,
Sure.
and you're only going to kind of see a kind of an escalation of where this is going. And it's not good, and I say that, with a grain of salt, that you kind of gotta, see where it all plays out. And, but the sickness is it's not a good sickness, it's sick. It's a sickness. But yeah, I think you're only going to see more meaningful relationship moments between these two.
Yeah.
And, whether or not they, play, it's up to the viewer at this point to decide. But I do think that there's some really impactful and really earnest moments between the two of them, and you're only getting more of it, and so it's just get used to it at this point. So it's like, you're not on board with them. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I think to this point of recording, I've seen up to episode 10. So I agree from what I've seen so far. I think they work really well together for two people that, kind of seem opposites. They have their quirks that play well together.
Yeah. And, I think it's like, we did such a disservice of that in season 1 and season 2, because we didn't get to tell that other side of the story.
Yeah.
And then season 2, we had such an awesome idea of starting every episode with Quinn floating in space and kind of telling her story as she was in final space, and then finally meeting her at the end. And I know everybody's like, oh, why didn't we get that? Like, don't blame me. I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those moments that just notes, you can't escape it.
Can't escape notes. All right. We got another big one here that happened during this episode. Was not overlooked because it was so epic to watch. Titans. We got the big old Bolo Orescus mooncake, big space battles. Very quintessential sci-fi. What was it like moving into this kind of giant scale that was these big old space battles between these Titans? Where these inspirations come from for you?
Yeah, it was one of those things that once the moment we started kind of doing the Titan lore in season 1, I was like, I want to see Titans fight at some point.
Yeah.
And I was like, at some point I got to show it, and one thing that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to kind of like, drag it out and it be this thing that you got to wait until the end of the season, to kind of, see a Titan fight. It's like, no, you're going to get it right off the rip. And not only that, but it's like, we're going to get, a bunch of little Titan fights, but it's like, I think the big thing for me is that you get to see a lot of the mythology of like why the Titans are doing what they're doing, and kind of like, that they were kind of
used as these people to build the universe, and they kind of found a different path. And Bolo was still on the side of the Arachnotechs and ends up getting imprisoned and gets dimensional cubed. And it's just kind of one of these cool moments where you get to see these two characters go at it, and you get the fun angle of basically Jill.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Are we going to see Jill?
Not this season, but the idea was that you would typically see her in like a season 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Jill is such a cool character to go down.
But what better thing to see two Titans fighting about, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's
real.
It makes the episode feel so much bigger, and you get to start to really feel the stakes, and you also get to see kind of just the odd pairing of Bolo and Mooncake, and just kind of go at it. And that was one thing that we didn't really get to do in season 2 in a meaningful way, is kind of say, hey, no, Mooncake's a pretty awesome character.
Oh yeah.
Let's see murder, a murder cake, But yeah, it was always fun to kind of get to dabble a little bit in those Titan fights. And this one I think is probably one of my favorite Titan fights.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, as we come to wrap this episode, anything you can tell us?
Wait a second. Can we talk about Biscuit for a second?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like, we're tapping into where, for me, I think with Biscuit, and he's saying the things that Gary should be saying a little bit, And I don't know. I kind of liked Biscuit's role in this episode too.
Yeah, I think it was Biscuit is one of those things that David was really adamant about having Biscuit be this kind of catalyst to basically poke holes in Gary and Quinn's relationship,
Yeah.
And kind of almost eventually force them just to kind of talk it out and kind of almost be a little bit of he kind of brings up the obvious in a very awkward way, and almost makes things worse before it gets better. So
yeah.
Well, it forces the combo,
Yeah. And so I think it was fun, but also it kind of gives another little angle to it gives another little angle to it. So it's one of those kind of cool things to see for sure.
Oh yeah, and very good reception on Biscuit from episode 2. I think a lot of people really liked his character introduction. It was really fun to see him, and I think we're all pumped to see Biscuit as we go further down this season. And speaking of, what can you tell us about episode 4 this week?
Well, I want to say before, I'm really enjoying, and you can put this in wherever, but I'm really enjoying Gary's growth, man. Okay. I mean, the acting that you were saying, of course, we're growing and we're getting better and better, but man, you are killing it with the growth of Gary.
Oh, thanks, man.
And the acting, and as they will foresee here in the next few episodes and going forward, there is so much of a connection with these characters that you have, I have, and all the other talent. It really shows. And before, just leading to that next episode, that excitement. And I just wanted to say that you're killing it, man. And I'm just thankful to be a part of it. I'm thankful for all the Fintrexians. I'm thankful for where this show can be seen, whoever's seeing it, and hearing this right now. And thanks for Gabe for holding this down. It really does mean a lot that, we're putting all this work in, and Olan especially putting all the work in, and the whole team doing their thing, that there's these ways to get it out and seen and heard and everything. So
yeah, and it's look, obviously this is coming out of a big reveal episode, and I know a lot of the hardcore fans are probably listening to this right now, and it's I know that exact feeling, and all I can say is this: it's look, it's good to feel things, it's good to kind of you can disagree with it all you want, and you're completely okay to do so. And I think in in this regard of this story. It's like, you just got to trust the process. You got to trust the story. You got to trust where it's going to go. And it's like, there's aspects, that aren't always going to kind of shape out the way that people want, but it's just the way that the story's going. And I think, looking ahead into episode 4, you get a really kind of, great continuation to this story, but also it's like, we're getting kind of more into Ash territory, and I think that was one of the cool, fun things about each of these episodes is you're kind of getting a little bit of a spotlight, on the characters, which is one, it was like the full group, kind of basically episode 2, you're getting a lot more of the Quinn, Gary, and then episode 3 was kind of more Avocato, and 4 is kind of that more Ash. Yeah. And then 5, you get the Quinn, so it's like, you're getting more and more of these characters that were kind of, didn't have a lot of, episodes in the past. And I think I promise you, if you're just satisfied with the amount of, emotion and actual kind of, meaningful story that's ahead, I totally understand, but it goes into a really awesome spot. And I think that this arc is heading into a really cool area for the show. But also it's like, it's a risk, it's a gamble, and you got to take risk and gamble sometimes. And that's something that you just got to try to do. And wherever it shakes out, like, and I think with this, part of the story, you kind of are getting kind of the next evolution of Final Space, and it's like you're seeing kind of the, season 1, season 2. I think both had, their merits, and I think that they were kind of both, pretty good seasons. I all I see is the flaws. That's all I see. I don't see any good anymore. It's impossible for me to see it. But what I do know is that there are some great stories and some great episodes ahead. And that's probably the first time I've ever really felt that way, for Final Space. It's insane to say that. And I know that a lot of people really connect with certain episodes, but it's like, for me, there are some beautiful episodes ahead. And I'm talking about episodes that will make you feel so warm and so sad and so kind of just like, you're going to love them. And it goes even epic. It goes epic. It goes big. It goes small, and it starts to slow down, and it starts to really kind of just basically just touch on these characters that and I always said that, like, the heart of this season is, you got the relationship between Gary and Quinn, and basically Little Cato and Avocato, but it's Avocato, Quinn, Ash. Those are the characters this season that they spotlight them. Yeah. And it's going in a really awesome direction. And I think it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be heartbreaking, but man, it's thrilling, dude. It's thrilling every step of the way. It's thrilling.
Can I just say this? It's one hell of a ride, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's like, I think once you get to once you kind of start getting into the latter half of the episodes, and you start seeing where it's going, it just gets more and more exciting. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a great season. And, obviously, to everyone that is upset, I'm sorry. It wasn't just me that came up with that. I blame the writer's room, and them convincing me. But what I do think is that it showed a very promising end. Well, and not only to the show, but also just an arc in such a really awesome spot. So I'm excited for it. And it's never what I originally intended. And but I think Avocato needed something. We needed to put a face to his guilt. Yeah. Because you can't just see that. Like, I don't care if, like, those ships that he destroyed in episode 6, I'm not going to remember that. And I don't really, honestly, I don't care about any of those ships and who's on those ships, because it's just like, you don't see them. You don't know. You're not connected with them. Yeah. So once you see the face to this guilt of Little Cato, it means something. Now you're like, oh,
oh, Avocato, what the freak? What did you do? You know, and that's what you need. That's what we need people to feel like. Like, what did he do? Why?
Yeah.
Why did he do that? You want people to be that passionate about it.
Yeah.
And so now that you have this face, and I know some people's like, how do you get redeemed from that? And it's not going to be easy,
Right.
but that's the point, you know, it gives us so much story mileage to kind of really let this thing breathe and actually kind of work through it. And that's why I said it was a multi-seasonal arc. It's not just one season. It's not going to be at the end of the season and everything's fine and dandy. No, it's still there. So it's like, the thing is, it keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And this character, you know, I think if you get every sense of it, there's so many hints, you know, with the right push, you'll see what he's really made of. And you did. You saw it. You saw what he was made of. He can do bad things. Yeah. And he's not a perfect character. And he's flawed. He's flawed like everybody. Gary's flawed. Quinn's flawed. Everybody's flawed. But what we get to see with Avocato is now the beginning of a long journey of getting over and figuring out how to find forgiveness, but also a guilt that is so deep that he's going to have to figure out how to come and make amends and redeem everything that he's done. And there could be a possibility where it doesn't happen, you know? And it's like, you know, he's tried to kind of put on this facade that he was this father for so long, that he was kind of like little Cato's father. But the thing is, his name's little Cato. It's not even a name. What is his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't even know. Avocato doesn't even know his own son name. He called him little Cato. Like that's the thing, is like, he was so guilty he couldn't even place ownership over little Cato.
Yeah.
He couldn't name him.
Yeah.
But he still felt that connection to little Cato. You know, like he wanted him to be his son. And so you're going to see just such a deep story. Like, and those are the best kinds, you know, that kind of that basically ruffle the feathers and get people really kind of talking and communicating and basically being like, oh man, where does this go? You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the beginning of something for Avocato that honestly makes him a more interesting character in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I love Avocato. I think he's a fun character. But what else was there?
Yeah.
It's like, right, you know, like the guilt.
I feel it's a good journey towards the truth.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
and like, can he face that? Will he face that? Will he make it to face that?
He's got so many crimes to answer for.
Yeah.
And we thought about so many different ways to go with the Avocato story. We thought about, like, there was another way of, like, you know, if we kept him the biological father, you know, we could kind of, you know, really keep going in that path where, you know, he tries to be a good dad and he keeps connecting with his son and stuff like that. But it's like, then it's like, where does that go? Yeah. You know, like there's no more story. Why did we bring back Avocato? You know? And it's like, you could say, it's like, well, he's trying to be a better and better dad. It's like, look, he sacrificed himself with a bomb for his son. There's never going to be any better dad moment than that. Okay. But we brought him back. Okay. And so now we have to figure out a meaningful story to tell with him. Yeah. And the meaningful story is that, hey, you know what? In his past, he wasn't a good guy. He did some stuff, you know? And that was just, man, it just opened up so many doors. That's why I get excited when I start thinking about it, is that I know where to take Avocato at this point. You know, like when we kind of got the ask of kind of like, are we going to bring back Avocato? We're like, I guess, you know, like, well, you know, we'll maybe dive into it. And, you know, we ended up figuring out a way to get him back. And then it was like, okay, well, where are we, you know, I remember we sat down in the writer's room and like, okay, where are we going to take him? Like, we need to come up with a story. But not only that, we got to figure out, like, what is something that we're going to really dive into. And we started thinking about all the kind of stuff that he did in the, you know, when he was under the Lord Commander. And we really wanted to kind of dissect that, but also dive into it. We've scratched the surface of Avocato. We've scratched the surface. What was he like as a kid? What was he like, when he was a father to his son? Who was his son? What happened to his son?
Yeah.
There's so many things we get to tell with Avocato now, and it's like, what led him to that moment? So now we get to tell all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, it's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be amazing. You're going to kind of love this character even more. And it's one of those things that you'll never forgive him for what he did, but he's going to try.
Let me ask you.
And I think that's the thing. He will do anything in his power to try to make up for that. And that to me is one hell of an arc. Like, you follow that, and so we just kind of are following that path. And I think it's an exciting path.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Listen to this. Can you imagine being the fly on the wall in the room with Olan Rogers and David Sachs? Could you imagine that?
No.
How awesome that would be.
Amen.
Look, I've been fortunate enough to be around there sometimes, and it's pretty awesome. Like, you just see the magic. I mean, literally lightning strikes sometimes. Like, wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just imagine when they're going these ideas and they're in that writer's room and everything. Oh man, that's so awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's
stories.
I think it's one of those things that, it's always kind of an interesting process breaking down story. And you never know where it's going to go until you get into that room and you start throwing around ideas,
Yeah.
And I think at this point, in season 1, we knew kind of where we wanted to go with everything, but we didn't really know the middle, and we kind of, the writer's room kind of helped us figure that out. In season 2, it was a lot more complicated, man. That was hard. That was a hard one to figure out. And it was a slog, and because it was impossible to kind of, I remember we had this whole, I think I even took a picture of it, like what the season 2 would have been, and it was like, dude, it was Empire Strikes Back. It was amazing. And it was one of those things that, with this writer's room, you start diving into the characters and you're like, okay, well, we're in season 3. What's the meaningful story that we can tell with each of these characters? And I think with where we saw the holes, we were like, you know what? Ash, Quinn, and Avocato need some spotlights, and I think, you get to follow some really amazing stories with those 3 characters. And, kind of, we know who Gary is. We know who little Cato is, and obviously there's a bunch of other characters that we still have yet to spotlight, but it's like, I think with each of the seasons and the time limit that we have and the episodes that we have, we only get 21 minutes. That's it to tell our story, and 13 episodes. That's it. So you can't tell all the stories that you want to tell, but you can tell most of them,
Right.
And so with this, we picked them 3 and I think, you get some really awesome stories with them. And we'll talk more about them in later episodes, but I'll leave it on that.
Yeah. And I was going to say breathe, Fantex scenes, breathe. But at this point, I'm sure everyone's too on the edge of their seats.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Let me just ask you this. You've seen up to episode 10.
Correct.
Knowing that, and be just completely honest. Look, I know that you're a fan of the show. I'm giving you complete permission to whatever you want to say here. Do you feel like the episodes that you've seen, it's leading in a meaningful direction that you feel like that the Avocato not being little Cato's biological father could lead to something pretty amazing?
I do. Just from what I've seen so far, I wish we would have gotten more of it by this point, but at the same time, I've seen where other stuff needed to take precedent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I agree with that. I think it's one of those things that, if you look back at season 2, if you look back at a lot of this stuff, it kind of gives it adds another layer to it. And I always love it when you get to tell another part of the story and you get to go back and like, oh, that thing,
Yeah.
Like, especially with the De Winters and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So when you get to tell another part of the story, you get to go back and you get to re-experience it in a new way. And you get to re-experience Avocato and little Cato's relationship. And you get to kind of see each little kind of thing. And, you know, we thought it through and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. It all made sense. So I think it's like, yeah, there could be more, but also think about it. Avocato died episode 6, season 1.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There was no more story for him.
Yeah, that was it.
So we got to episode 8 and 9, and then we kind of was like, you know, he got possessed by Invictus, and it's like, yeah, maybe we could have told more story there, but I think the closer you get is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't have changed anything, and that actually foreshadows so much in this season.
Yeah.
And so I would never give up that episode.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I think what's been done thus far has given this season the room to breathe with the characters that it plays with in an incredibly meaningful way. Yeah. Especially when it comes to Ash and Quinn in these upcoming episodes. But I also think that this sets something that is allowed to loom over your head as you go through, wondering, when's it going to come up? When's it going to come up? When's it going to come up?
That's right, dude. You haven't seen. Okay, yeah, you haven't seen the last 3.
Yay!
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't
and
seen.
That's the episode.
Yeah. You haven't seen the last 3. I totally forgot. Yeah. You've only seen it for 10. Yeah.
So, well, I hope this answers a bunch of questions out there. I'm sure people are on the spectrum from angry to sad to excited to pumped to who
Just
knows what.
Look. I'll say this. Yeah. This is the last thing I'll say. Hang in there. You got this. We're in this stretch together. I love you guys. I know that you're sad, upset. Some people probably love it. Who knows? I don't know.
I love it.
We record these things before the episode actually airs, so I have no idea. I'm going to be off. I'm not even going to check my phone. I'm going to be somewhere else. Okay, so
don't go too hard on me.
Yeah.
But I will say
it's worth it. I as a fan of the show, not just as the person making this podcast, I think it's worth it.
Okay, thank you, Gabe.
Yeah.
I have one.
And
one
without bias,
you've got at least a vote of confidence.
And without bias, I know it's worth it.
And here's the thing: this was the one thing I was probably most worried about reaction wise. Once we get past this, I don't really know. I don't think there's too much else that I'm worried about. This is the one I lose sleep overnight. So,
well, I think it's going to be awesome. But for now,
just know this, okay? That Gary and Avocato can feel you, okay?
Friendship rocks.
Friendship
rocks
through rocks. Through rocks.
But listen, it doesn't just hold to rocks, okay? All right, it's everything.
Heck yeah.
Rocks.
Especially through the internet, where you can follow everybody at Final Space, at Into Final Space, at Olan Rogers, at Gabriel W. Jones, and at Coty Galloway on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also do us a major favor by following us on your favorite podcast location like Spotify. And you can help attract new fans to both the podcast and the show by giving us a wonderful rating on Apple Podcasts. But that's until next week. Big episode, heavy episode, but a lot of fun. Thank you, Coty, for joining us. Olan, I will see you again on the next one. And we'll see you next time on Into Final Space. Thanks, guys.
All right.